When I was in college, I took some pretty weird electives. One such elective class was by the theater department of my university on speaking with accents. Now you can see how that would come in handy to the prospective theater majors, but I never really thought it would serve me much until now. You see, that class introduced me to something called the International Phonetic Alphabet, and it's a way of writing out how words should sound. And here at A Cloud Guru, there's a fair degree of controversy around how to pronounce a certain word. And that word is this. You see, I say cash. Some of my colleagues say cache. And so I wanted to get to the bottom of this. I consulted two very well-respected dictionaries for the proper pronunciation. And here's the phonetic pronunciation that both agreed upon. So all we have to do is consult our International Phonetic Alphabet, and we can clearly see that there's a k sound, there's a sound, and a sh sound. So the proper pronunciation is cache.
Sorry, Scott, it's cache.
So we're going to talk about Amazon Elasticache. And Elasticache is really a service that has two subcomponents or subvarieties. And those two subvarieties are, you can choose from Redis or Memcache, and both of them are very popular in-memory data stores. Elasticache offers push-button scalability for memory, writes, and reads. Now, in-memory databases are different than other databases that we've talked to because the data is stored in memory, meaning they're not tied to disk I/O. And so that means they're really, really fast. In fact, faster than DynamoDB. But the trade-off is persistence. In the case of Redis, you do have the option to backup and restore, and there are some ways to create persistent data. But don't think of Redis as a persistent data store such as Dynamo or RDS. Elasticache is billed by node size and hours of usage. Now, we're going to revisit Elasticache when we get to the scalability domain. Let's look at a few use cases of Elasticache. One very popular use of Redis is storing web session information. Now, if you have a large fleet of web servers, you don't necessarily want to store session data on each and every web server, because if one of them goes down, then you're going to lose that information. So a very common way around that is to store session data in a Redis data store. Additionally, there are some e-commerce applications that by default want to try to communicate session data via multicast. But as we're going to find out, VPCs don't support multicast, only unicast. So we need another way to share session data, and Redis is a good way of doing that. Now we can also use Memcache to offload some work from a MySQL instance, allowing you to potentially get by with a smaller DB engine and maybe save some money. Another common use case is in leaderboards for mobile applications. And in-memory data stores are also used as a landing page or a landing spot for streaming data. For instance, factory floor data, you can report off that and show dashboards on that data in real time because it's so fast. Now let's take a look at the two types of in-memory data stores that are allowed on Elasticache. We have Memcached and we have Redis. Now, each one of them has their pros and cons. And on the exam, you're probably going to be given a scenario where you have to decide which is the best caching engine. In general, think of Memcache as the no-frills, robust workhorse, and Redis as the feature-rich, fancy option. Take a moment to read through these different bullet points and be sure they're part of your study regimen to understand what each platform, what each engine gives you. Now, as I said before, you do have some persistence options with Redis, but in the end, a cache is a cache. And don't use a cache to do the job of an RDS database or S3.